Power cuts and blackouts are becoming more and more common, and in this video I explore what you need when the lights go out.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
There seems to be an increase in power outages in the UK and other parts of the world. Extreme weather conditions are becoming more and more commonplace, bringing down power lines and damaging infrastructure. In addition, there is also an increase in threat of disruption to the grid as a result of a building energy crisis following Russia's invasion of Ukraine and the resulting war. In the UK recently, we had an extreme weather event after which 1 million households were left without power, and for some this lasted a week before power was restored. So all that said, it makes sense to consider what might be needed when the power goes off. So I'm going to be suggesting a simple but practical kit that you can keep to hand in the home that could really help when the lights go out. And in this video, I'm looking at a relatively short power outage, let's say something like 1 or 2 days at the most. And in a future video, I plan to look at what might be needed if power was lost for a week or more. So let's talk about lighting, as this is the first thing most people think about when it comes to a power cut. And for good reason, because at night it's essential to have some form of lighting because it's difficult to do anything at all in total darkness, as well as presenting an immediate danger of accidents and falling. Candles are an option for ambient light, but candles come with obvious dangers of fire. They're impractical to use outside and provide limited light output. In fact, usually around 1 candle power. So I'm going to be looking at some alternatives in this video. First, you're going to need a work light so you can get about and perform tasks, and the best option here is a headlight so you can keep your hands free. And these are generally designed with a combined beam and flood spread of light, which is ideal. When choosing a flashlight, a lot depends on how you live. For example, a 2-bedroom flat is going to be different from a 1,000-acre farm. But however you live, it's important to have good battery life and multiple light levels so you can match the battery consumption to the situation. You might need to be outside getting wood from a store, or you might need to venture further, maybe to an outbuilding or to check on some neighbours. Or you might just need to be checking the fuse box in the house. Rechargeable batteries like the lithium ion in this flashlight are generally preferable because they have higher power densities than alkaline and therefore last longer. An example of a high-end headlight would be something like this Perun 2 from Olight, but this is more suited to the farm than say the flat because it's got the capability of really high power outputs. But with having such a big battery, it's also got really good run times, which is something to look out for in a flashlight. Or as a more affordable option, something like this Petzeltika, which I've had for many years, would suit most people. Has a couple of light levels and it's powered by 3 AAA batteries. So by simply keeping some extra batteries on hand, you can extend the runtime that way. Also, it's really useful to have some form of ambient lighting like these lanterns here. And the benefit of a lantern is that it can light up a whole room, and that's perfect for where you've got a gathering of, say, family members or some form of group interaction, or you might be simply preparing food in a kitchen. And as you can imagine, in a group situation, an ambient light is much more practical than headlights, where everyone simply ends up shining their lights in each other's faces. Here we have a couple of examples of lanterns. This is the Olight Mini Lantern, and this can run for 12 hours at 50 lumens or 4 hours at 150 lumens. And here we have the Princeton Tech Helix, and this can provide 6 hours at 150 lumens. And there are lots of different lanterns available on the market. In this kit, I would suggest that every member of the family have their own flashlight so they can move around the house safely. And I would recommend that these are headlights so they can have their hands free as well. And you don't have to spend too much. I found this 2-pack of headlamps on Amazon, including batteries, for £10. And that is likely to be under $10 in the US. And considering that this is for emergencies only, this will be more than adequate. And then we have glow sticks. These are a great option for a safe all-night low-level light, particularly for children's bedrooms who may need that constant light in order to be able to sleep. The good thing about these is they're very safe to use. They don't get hot. None of the chemicals in here are harmful. And you simply open the packet. And then inside here, you've got a glass tube. Once chemicals mix, it creates a reaction which generates light. You hear that break there. Then you shake it and that will last for around 12 hours, so all through the night. They're not what you call bright, but they do create a nice relaxing glow. In terms of price, these cost about £2 or $2 each, which I think is pretty good value. And if you want to know more about this glow stick or some of the other products mentioned, I'll put some links in the description below this video. That then brings me to communication. Now that is going to be important in a power emergency, to call for help, check on friends and get updates on the situation from various news sources. But what will be available when it comes to making a call in a wide area power outage? Well, if you have a basic landline, sometimes referred to as a PSTN or public switched telephone network, that normally means a copper wire to the telephone exchange, and you have a basic phone plugged directly into that line, then it should still work in the event of a power failure. And that is because the exchange provides the power for that communication to take place, and that exchange has battery backup and generators. But this is becoming the exception rather than the norm, as copper wires are being replaced with fibre optic connections, which will always require local power. And even those with a wide connection to the exchange often use digital voice or voice over IP only, and that also requires local power. And don't forget, if you've got a cordless phone on the end of that landline, the base station requires power, so in the event of a power cut, it won't work either. In the UK, the analogue phone connections are due to be phased out completely by 2025. So everything's going to go digital, irrespective of whether you're still on copper or whether you've got fibre. And that means, in a nutshell, that if the power fails, you won't be able to make a landline call. So what about mobile phones? Well, for these to continue to work, the mobile needs to connect to a mast, and if the mast is also affected by the power outage, then it's a bit of a lottery. Some cell towers will fail immediately, some will have battery backup between 1 and 24 hours, and in some rare cases some will have diesel generator backup. It's fair to assume, therefore, that for a wide area power outage where your phone cannot reach a cell tower that has not been affected by the outage, that the mobile phone signal will fail, if not immediately, then within a few hours. A satellite phone will still work, but it's likely to be too expensive for most people just for emergency use in the home. So be aware that all voice communication is likely to be lost immediately or within a few hours. So what about the internet? Well, the landline or fibre-based broadband will no longer work because that requires equipment in the home that needs power. And as far as mobile data goes, that will disappear as well when the cell tower fails. But bear in mind, it may also be compromised for speed before then, based on a surge in demand, as everybody realises that home internet is no longer working. So it's reasonable to expect that in the event of a power cut, there will be no voice calls and no internet. And when you think about it, we now consume the majority of our news and information via the internet. So no power means no news updates. I would therefore recommend something for this kit that will provide news and information but does not need internet access. And that would be one of these. This is an AM/FM low-cost radio, costing around £15 to £30 for something like this analog version here, or about twice that for a DAB radio or digital radio. Just tuning into news bulletins, particularly from local radio stations, can be a valuable source of information and also comfort.
Meanwhile, Russian President Vladimir Putin has threatened to stop Russian natural gas supplies to Europe from today.
You can be alerted to an improving or worsening situation or directed to where support might be available if needed. And something like this uses very little power, in this case just a couple of AA batteries. Really simple to use and operate. You just basically turn it on and then just tune. So I think this is a great addition to the kit and will bring with it some peace of mind when no other news sources are available. And then we come to backup power. Now, most homes do not have off-grid backup power, but it's worth keeping some power banks charged and ready to go for your electronic devices that are still usable. And this will hugely extend the life of your mobile phone. Also consider switching the phone off or onto low power mode if the phone battery is running low. Power banks can also keep flashlights and lanterns charged, so don't forget your charging cables to go with them. An example of a power bank will be one like this. This is from Anker. This is a 10,000 milliamp hour capacity, costs around £32 in the UK, and something like this will charge an iPhone Pro around about 2.5 times. And if you want to know more about power banks, check out my earlier review. Also, it's a good idea to keep some alkaline batteries in your kit for battery powered lights and other devices like the radio, and these have a shelf life of 12 years. When it comes to heating, very few heating systems can function without power. Without heating at home, you can always resort to putting on some extra layers or blankets, but being able to light a fire, if you have a working fireplace or say a wood burner, especially when it's freezing outside, can really help with comfort and morale and illumination at night, and in some cases cooking too. So aim to keep a supply of wood or other fuel at the ready, and also have something available to light a fire or ignite a flame, and matches or a lighter are an obvious option and should be fine for a day or two. And as far as matches go, they don't have to be in this waterproof case. Any matches will do. This could also be useful for lighting a stove. Obviously an electric hob simply won't work, but if you've got a gas hob, that should still work, but without power you're likely to need a separate form of ignition. Again, most people can manage without a stove for a couple of days, but if like me you would feel bereft without access to a cup of tea, you might want to look at a backup option to boil water. A good option as a backup stove is something like this. This is a spirit burner. It burns methylated spirits or denatured alcohol as fuel, and the great news about that is it burns cleanly, so you can use this indoors with care. Just ensure you've got some adequate ventilation. And the way it works is you simply unscrew the top and you put in the fuel, and 2 ounces or around 60 ml will burn for about 10 to 15 minutes, which is more than adequate to boil water for a couple of hot drinks. This 500 ml bottle of methylated spirits can be stored indefinitely and will provide enough fuel for about 2 hours of burn time, which is more than enough for a couple of days, even at the rates as Brits drink tea. They're very affordable. This cost me around £13 and it came with this pot stand. So we have here a very affordable, compact, self-contained emergency stove. And if you want to see one of these spirit burners in action, then check out my earlier review. Okay, let's quickly talk about water. And a wide area power outage could affect the water supply in 2 ways. One is the water treatment, which makes the drinking water safe to drink, may no longer be operational, and in such cases the UK issue a boil water advisory, and that's the sort of thing you can pick up on your local radio. Also, depending on how the water supply gets to you, the supply may become cut off as pumps start to fail because of the power failure, although in most cases there will be some backup power from emergency generators to avoid this happening immediately following a power cut. You could always use your mini stove to boil water, and it's also worth keeping some aquatabs on hand. If you're not confident about your water, you can just drop in one of those and within half an hour you've got water that is safe to drink. But the easiest solution, so to speak, for short outages at least, is to keep some bottled water on hand, and the recommended consumption in the UK is 2 litres per person per day for drinking. I've not put any water actually in the kit as it doesn't last forever, so just remember to have enough bottled water on hand for all the family for a couple of days, and then remember to replace what you drink. As far as food goes, this shouldn't become a problem over just a couple of days, but do be aware that your fridge freezer will stop working, and a freezer should be able to hold its temperature for around 48 hours if it's full and about 24 hours if it's half full. A fridge can hold temperature for around 4 hours, but avoid opening and closing the doors so you don't lose your cool. Also worth keeping in your blackout kit is a notepad and pen, so you can jot down phone numbers, etc. in a hurry, and I would always keep a multi-tool in there so you can have a toolkit to hand without having to hunt around. So let's get everything in a box. These are readily available and affordable, and they are waterproof and leak proof. So there you'll have a basic blackout kit. Keep everything together in a box and put it somewhere where you can easily find it in the dark. And if you want to check out some flashlight reviews, then have a look at this playlist here. That's it for this video. Thank you as always for watching. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.